Once a new experience is defined by a user, the editing environment opens up. The editing environment contains a number of controls for composing and editing codes. First, an instrument's input source needs to be selected. In this case, we're using a MIDI input from a keyboard. Next, a matching profile needs to be set up. This controls note and pitch quantization, in addition to parameter controls for inexact matching. There are currently two methods for inputting codes: direct input of text or recording in examples. The latter will be used in this instance. A title is defined and the record button activated. When performed, note events appear on the timeline with their pitch names, and note durations are indicated by the green bars. The user's matching profile is then selected, and this generates a text string of the performed notes and octave positions from the recording. The user can now adjust the software's dynamic filter and grouping settings to package a stream of note events into a code. The note stream groups or filters out notes based on frequency and velocity. In this example, a minimum and a maximum frequency value are set, which discards any note below an E3 or above an F-sharp 6. Notice how the adjustment of these values dynamically changes the note stream, as indicated by the red bounding box on the timeline. In addition to frequency, note velocities can be set that will discard note events above or below the defined values. When a user is happy with how their example is functioning, this can then be copied and pasted into the Codes and Actions tab, where defined codes are placed. Once the code is inputted, an action can then be mapped to it. In this example, the musician is using a MIDI message that will communicate with the digital audio workstation, so when the code is performed, it will trigger playback of an accompaniment. A MIDI output is then chosen to link to the digital audio workstation, and the composed code is then saved. Now the performer opens the master view, which is the performance environment. A timeline, similar to the one found in the edit environment, is located at the top. The candidate codes are listed underneath on the left-hand side, and an Actions preview window on the right-hand side. The master view gives feedback and feed forward to the performer. Note events appear in the timeline as constrained by the note stream settings. Recognised notes that potentially form a candidate code turn red on the left-hand side to show a performer's progress. Here, the performer plays some music, and when they're ready, they introduce their defined code. Note events when recognised turn red, and when the code is fully completed, the MIDI backing track is triggered. In this second example, the banjo player has defined a number of different codes based on melodic passages from traditional Irish folk tunes. These codes act as musical instructions that fetch pages from their online songbook and are sent to other musicians in a traditional session so that they can join in. They have used the inexact matching parameters as found in the editing environment to introduce looseness into the system, so the banjo player can then add embellishments and variation into their performance, and the codes will still be recognised.